I would like to introduce
Okay, let's go.
New Bedford's new online radio station. WNB1 Radio broadcasting live 24/7. All music genres. WNB1 Radio. Your urban music link.
Hey, you were listening to WNB1 Radio, and this is Poetic Conversations. My man, the funky professor, and yours truly, Charlie Perry, are here. We're going to kind of talk to you about a few things, and one is thumping soul music, and we'll be here for approximately an hour giving you some intellect. And feel free to give us a call at 774-425-2631. That's 774-425-2631. What's going on, man?
All right. Good to see you.
Same here.
That's it.
Always a pleasure, man.
Likewise.
You know, you send me texts, I'm like, it's like an instant smile. I'm like, all right, what's he got to say today? You know, I always know it's good news, man. Good news.
Likewise. Also look forward to reading your poetry in the morning.
Oh,
I'm like, new piece just popped up in my
yeah.
feed. Oh, here we go.
I actually got to get ready for tomorrow night. I'll be in Providence. Jay Bird Walker, he invited me to go and read a couple of things. So I'm going to go ahead and go out there and
Which venue are you going to do?
I can't, you know what, you would say that to me. It's
It's called promo.
yeah, I know. I should help it out. Well, anyways, I'm going to definitely,
It's like the Arsenio Hall show. I'm doing something somewhere.
yeah,
with somebody
somewhere.
sometime.
Yeah. I'm actually getting paid for it, so that's a good thing too.
Oh, hey.
You know.
Hey, you know,
yeah,
in that case, the hell with an audience.
yeah. That's it. That's it.
But cool.
So, the best thing about tomorrow night is I get to see how they set it up and what they're doing. Because I want to bring more of that, you know, around here in New Bedford. You know, we definitely need to have more of it. You know,
Oh, yeah.
Eric does his every now and then, and but we need to have more of it. Spoken word is so important, and to me it's just that get that everything, that emotion out of you. You know, it's just that it's my vent. You know, or that thing that calms me down, and really I just love poetry, and spoken word is something that I was always shying away against.
Mm.
I just was not into speaking in front of people or reading in front of people. It just wasn't something that I was kind of ready for, and until I spoke to a couple other poets in Carver, I think it was, yeah, and they basically told me, look, it's just a conversation. Just look at me. I'm your friend. Look at me in the audience and just kind of say what you have to. And I started doing that, and then everything else, kind of
Well,
fell in place.
well, let me give you this added inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
Poetry as a written form is colonization
Mm.
because poetry began as a spoken form,
Mm-hmm.
even down to the fact that drama is considered dramatized poetry.
Yes.
And the original playwrights were called poets
Mm-hmm.
because it's the text. And, when we talk about Thespis,
Yes.
and Thespis was the original actor, he was
Mhm.
like, well, no, he was the first actor to use a script,
Mhm.
which was the Greek introduction.
Okay.
Theater had already existed for centuries.
Hmm.
So, but the thing is, poetry was meant to be spoken.
Yeah.
It became a written form little by little, and it began even with colonization. When I talk about colonization, I'm not even just talking about what they did here, because they first tested it in Europe.
Mm.
You had all of these tribal people living in what became England and what became Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
They were the original group that got colonized. They were a spoken people. They were spoken word people because it was
Yes.
an oral tradition. It was based on oral tradition. But then moving things to text, when I can remove the interaction, okay, you said some very beautiful, colorful things, and I read them, That's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then, as they were saying, as the poets were saying to you in Carver, you have a friend in the audience, just say it to the friend. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Because the actual purpose of poetry is not just reflection, but engagement.
Hmm.
If,
All right. Yeah.
if you read like, because this wasn't even a poem, this was actually a transcript. There's this piece, the Symposium, which was
Mm-hmm.
really just a meeting of philosophers in ancient Greece, but it's written as poetry.
Wow.
And
Mm-hmm.
the thing that I remember, one of the things that I remember, I was in high school. I think I was probably a sophomore in high school. A bunch of us actually skipped out of school to go down to the main branch New York Public Library. There was a guy there who was reciting the Iliad
Mm.
without the book
Yeah.
in front of him. He was just reciting the entire
It's
thing.
amazing.
And we, of course, to recite the entire Iliad takes probably about like 15 hours. So
Mm-hmm.
we
Yeah.
were only able to hang out for like 2 hours. But dude was just sitting there and just rattling this off like it was a conversation.
Wow.
And it was probably the most interesting presentation of the Iliad I'd ever experienced, because he's saying this like I'm just telling this story,
Mm.
but no text in front of him. So when you think about it, and that's a poem. You think about Paradise Lost. It's a remarkably boring poem, but
Mm-hmm. Yep.
but the origin. So if you actually say what you've written, and you've written, like I said, you write some beautiful stuff.
Thank you.
But if you actually say what you've written, that not only enriches the interactive experience of the listener, but it's now your true voice,
Mm-hmm.
and you're kicking the European influence out of your work.
Yeah. I really I would love to do an audio book, and so when I do call you and I need to do it, that means I'm ready. I'm ready, and so it's that's on my bucket list, and it's really something I've been procrastinating, but I cannot wait to do that. Not only for myself, but for my family, for my friends, people that do follow me, and like you said, it's something special when you could kind of read your work, and now it's my voice. It just means a whole lot to some people. So, but you all have been, you and the Groovalatos, and everything that you're associated with has just been all over the place, and I love the fact that you tag me on things, because I'm like, yes, that's nice. And when we first met, I was like, I love them dudes, and you heard this over and over again. But this is what I expected. This is what everything that's happened with you. You must have a great manager. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
You got it right.
Oh, big time. Big time.
And this stuff is it's like everything I expected, one after another, and I'm like, yes, that's nice. That's it. Um, let's talk about those things.
Okay.
All right.
And first, the value of a good manager.
Mm-hmm.
You can have a whole lot of ideas, but if you have somebody who first helps you like organize them
Yes.
and put them in the right order of do this,
Mhm.
this, yeah, that's what makes the idea actually come to life. Or
Yes.
present it this way, or do it in this fashion. So yeah.
And management has that knack of seeing things that we're not seeing, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And that's when they do their best work sometimes. So cheers, 5 stars to your manager.
Oh, big time. Big time. Shout out to Ray Reynolds.
Yes, you should give her a raise this week.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
Without
That's
question.
Without-
So especially having to put up with me. Oh, big time.
a double pay.
Oh man. Oh man.
So
That's the hazard. That was the hazard they didn't warn her about when we hired her.
yeah, yeah. Well, I like dealing with you. You're a good dude, and Always have been, and since day one. I wanted to talk about the kids. It's this one, right?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. It says auditions. The Oversouls Youth Jam Band. Are you a young musician ready to jam? Let's talk about that.
All right, yeah. Well, the old New Bedford had a tradition of youth bands.
Mm-hmm.
The CV Band Club, youth band, marching bands, and there's still some level of organization around that in the city, but it's not reaching the same kids that it used
Yeah.
to. It's not reaching the same.
True.
And a lot of it is because as music, and I had to learn this for myself. As musicians, we have a tendency sometimes to make what we do so erudite and out of out of reach,
Yes.
out and make it sound so when it's not.
No, it is.
A couple of podcasts ago when we were talking about music theory,
Mm-hmm.
and I said it's all about fourths and fifths.
Yeah.
Well, it's all about understanding fourths and fifths. It's about understanding majors and minors, and the nuances of notation, etc., can come from that.
Yes.
But when we limit ourselves to understanding music from the standpoint of basically 19th century Europe, what was going on in Germany and France in the 17 and 1800s, and that completely negates and leaves out what was even happening in Europe in
Mm-hmm.
the 20th century, but also what was happening in terms of jazz. And even the music the kids are listening to and making now with hip hop, with Afrobeat and so forth, and just sort of understanding basic rudiments of how to make that tighter.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of like, okay, we need to update how we do youth bands. And so, for one thing, the ability to read music is great. It's not required
Yeah.
because we can teach you that.
Mm-hmm.
That comes secondary. But it's really, do you have a passion for this? Do you have a relationship with the instrument you're playing?
Mm-hmm.
And we're not talking about doing particularly well. Yes and no. When I say difficult, we do a lot of stuff with polyrhythmic work. We do a lot of stuff with counterpoint, but
Mm-hmm.
by the same token, it's sort of like, but this is all the music you're listening to.
Yeah.
This is what happens when you sample this record and
Mhm.
that record and throw that beat over it and that bass line. Okay, well now you're going to create this with instruments.
Yeah.
And so just and it's also providing that opportunity because what I notice is the good old garage band doesn't happen anymore. Well, now it's kids with laptops and drum machines and whatnot. That's sort of the DAWs and whatnot. They're kind of like the new garage band.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is if we end up with and Prince pointed this out. If we end up with layers of kids who don't know how to play instruments, boy, you're gonna sample.
Yeah. Exactly.
You'll have no music to sample
Mhm.
except for the old stuff.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
the entire point behind when he made the album Musicology,
Hmm.
and it was an excellent point. And in terms of the oversoul concept and the youth band concept, it ties into when we talk about the thump and soul movement, because the thump and soul movement, when I look at where did the concept or where did I first roll with the idea thump and soul? Let's erase genre and
Mm-hmm.
what is the music that makes people move? Look at it from that point. It really traces back to when I went to England back in 1990. What completely blew my mind when I got to England was they had a pop chart, not a pop chart and an R&B chart and a country chart and a hip hop chart and a blues chart and this chart and that chart. It was a pop chart, and the pop chart was what's popular.
Yeah.
So the fact that you might have a rock record, a hip hop record, popish record,
Mhm.
and then a R&B record as like the top five in England or in Europe
Yeah.
was not unusual, and they would be completely different genres. But it was like, but what are people listening to?
And that's the better definition or of pop music
Yeah.
compared to what we have here.
Right. Well, it's because they're utilizing the term popular for what it really means. When
Mm-hmm.
you look at the history of it here, popular means middle and upper class white.
I agree.
That's what pop always meant.
Mm-hmm.
It was what is Norman Rockwell or the people in the Norman Rockwell pictures listening to? That's pop music.
Yeah.
When they came up with hillbilly music, which they later called country,
Mm-hmm.
when they came up with hillbilly music, that was because that was poor white Southerners.
Yes.
And what are poor white Southerners listening to? Because you had the upper class, financial upper class white Southerners, they were listening to pop. But the ones who were, blowing into jugs and playing wash tubs, that's hillbilly music.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, part of why they had to call it hillbilly music was the music was coming out of parts of the South where black folks and white folks were intermingled.
Mm-hmm.
Because Appalachia, Appalachia, it wasn't a matter of it was okay, we all live up here, so
Yeah.
So you had black folks and native folks and
Mhm.
Scotsmen and Irishmen all intermingling. And when I say intermingling, having children together and
Yeah.
playing music together. And it was this commingling that brought together some of the elements of the Irish and the Scottish folk music
Mm.
with African American music. And that is the foundation of hillbilly music. And they had to designate this because of the fact that it was tarnished with black and Native American influences.
Mm.
But so when you look at our charts are based on racism, not on
Exactly.
not on populace.
Man, you took the words right out of my mouth because.
Actually, let me be more precise because people they're based on white supremacy.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned don't use the word racism because they're going to try to argue that.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
oh, everybody's racist. Oh, okay, no. Well, let's be very specific to what the problem is.
Yeah.
The particular brand of racism that we deal with is white supremacy,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what fuels the charts.
Yeah. And fun fact is the title "Rhythm and Blues" was created by a white man,
Mhm.
and based off, comes from beach music, and I think we talked about this before, and but it just kind of confirms what you're actually saying because it all these titles. I mean, we go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was like, rhythm and blues was actually brought about to now create a dividing line between your urban blacks and your country blacks.
Hmm.
Country black folk and lower class black folk listen to blues.
Yeah,
Again, your middle class black people were listening to R&B. We're
exactly.
listening to rhythm and blues because
Hmm.
it's sort of like when they try to reintroduce soul music, we put a hip hop beat behind it and call it neo soul.
Yes.
They're giving it this new level of class. Well, so that was really the dividing line between rhythm and blues because rhythm and blues, calling it that now made it respectable for people who were initially known as jazz musicians, which
Mhm.
basically play popular black music.
Wow.
Which is we ended up with like Louis Jordan,
Mhm.
records like Caledonia,
Yep.
Flagelapa, and whatnot.
It's
Those are the original R&B records.
I want to let you know that since you're touring all over the place, and you're doing different things. If you do go down to Louisiana, New Orleans, please let me know
Oh, yeah.
because I would love for actually my cousin's coming down in a few weeks. He's coming up here,
Oh, all right.
so he's going to be closer to you. I'm going to make that happen because he's a good musician,
All right.
excellent chef, and
The thing I've learned out of Louisiana that it's sort of like excellent musician is sort of like if you're from Louisiana, you're gonna play.
yeah,
You're gonna play really well. That's
and
something I've
I mean,
learned.
and he's born and raised up here,
Okay, yeah.
but he went down there and
So if you're gonna hang down there, you're gonna be a real musician. I know that.
yeah, and that's he had it up here, and then he just went down there, and it made him that much better. But wonderful wife. I only know her as family because she's just such a beautiful, beautiful person, beautiful family. Shout out to Nadia. The so he said June, first week of June. So I'm going to try to make sure that that happens. especially with all these things going on. I'm gonna make sure I bring them in the house, you know. And
second half of the first week of June, I'm a little gone,
all right, okay. The we have we talked about many things, and I want to give a shout out to the Gallery X, right? And the reason why I'm saying that is, for one, that you know you you guys have established a routine there and a schedule. But I have slowly got a high appreciation for that building, because now they actually house, do different meetings for the New Bedford Historic Society, which they just put me on the board. And so Gallery X is just, I thought they were just kind of picking and choosing what they do over there, and it's not even close to that.
It's a different group.
Yeah.
There was a group that deleted themselves out of membership and almost deleted themselves out of existence.
And that was the perception in the whole community, right?
Because that was what was going on. I know
Yeah.
When I came to New Bedford in 2003. I mean, to live.
Yeah.
I've been hanging here since the late 80s, but when I moved here, one of the things that the poet laureate at the time, John Landry.
Yes.
And John was part of Gallery X and was like, hey, come join Gallery X. And I was like, okay. But what began to happen was there was a leadership shift. And the group that came in, and it's really funny because you ended up with a group like this at the university. What they thought was, to raise the status of our gallery, we need to raise our standards. And somehow what people see in terms of raising their standards is not necessarily paying attention to upping the quality.
Yeah.
But it's the perception of the quality by now we're going to reject more and more artwork. We're going to reject more and more proposals of community activities. We're going to reject, and it was because of this rejection they were then claiming, well, we have a high curatorial standard, was the term that they began to use, which is how they ended up losing. Well, I know Eric used to do his poetry out of there. That's how they lost him, was with that. Philip Ramos and I were doing a show out of there called the Lower Lounge that ran for about a year and a half, and we finally bounced because they were, the thing with the Lower Lounge was it was exactly what you were talking about. We were giving voice to the community.
Yes.
And to the extent that it wasn't even necessarily just poets. We had one guy who used to show up every time with a boombox and rap about, donate to his GoFundMe.
Yeah.
Another guy who would show up every month and play the guitar, and he'd always want to play a song that he just learned. And it's like, dude, why don't you play the song you learned last?
Yeah.
But the thing was, to us, it was just sort of like, but this is part of what makes this fun. And this is how what they didn't notice was, and this is developing an audience, because there were people who wanted to come see the guy play guitar badly and sing badly every month. They wanted to see the guy get up with the boombox and rap about I need your money. And, this became so. But the thing was, Gallery X was like, well, no, we want something more of a, and it was like, okay, and they ended up with nothing.
Yeah.
And they ended up with people, basically saying, the hell with this place. And
you can't. You can get so much from the well, right?
To the extent that when I went back to join, I came in with a written proposal thing, and all they wanted was, my application and my check. They were like, well, you can tell us what you want to do. And they were like, oh, that sounds like great stuff.
Yeah.
But they were like, no, we don't do that anymore.
Wow.
We're not like that anymore. We want members, and, we want you to be a member. We want you to be active, and that's what we look for. And so, so shout out to Zach. He's the executive over there, because he green lights a lot of stuff and, lets us flex and try different things out. Is very supportive of the Thump and Soul session.
I seen him about 2 weeks ago, and I know you mentioned him before, but this was the first time I actually got an opportunity to put a name with the face, or the face with the name, and so good spirited guy, I definitely enjoyed it. I listened to some of the conversation he was having with some people, but no, Gallery X, definitely, you won me over. Always had me, because I always loved the building. Um, then it was kind of this untrusting thing with me, and now I basically have some nice fanfare for Gallery X, and I'm gonna look into them about kind of doing my interviews for the Keith Francis documentary that the Wind Down Productions is gonna. Um, so I'd like to do a lot of interviews there, and so I'm gonna reach out to them and try to get that going. Thanks to you, I totally forgot about it, and downstairs, and the Frederick Douglass, it's gallery, right? All right, and
Which a lot of people don't realize that down there was a way station.
Wow, that's crazy.
That's part of why.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Because people are always like, "Oh, you're gonna stick the nigga in the basement."
Yeah, yeah.
What used to be said, and it's like, well, no, they named it that because it's like, oh, so you stick the niggas in the basement.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's crazy because
sorry you stick the N words in the basement.
Yeah, no, I get it.
That makes
The building,
weird, doesn't it?
the building behind us, behind the station,
Yeah.
the Quaker Meeting House, and
yeah.
Growing up, as a young New Bedford kid, and that was the perception for that building, believe it or not, and I always thought that that's where they kept them, or it was, and when you read the history of New Bedford, it was a lot of places that were doing the right thing for Black folks, and
well, it's also funny because this is one that I love to tell our friends, and when I say friends, I'm talking about the Quakers, when they want to start talking about the involvement in the runaway era. And
yeah,
well, two things. One, what have you done for me lately?
yeah,
And the second is, can you then explain to me why Paul Cuffey, who was of Ghana and Aquina Wampanoag, financed the building of the Westport Quaker Meeting and was forced to sit in the back.
Yep.
And when he died, they wouldn't put him in the cemetery. He's buried next to the back door. And I think it was his grandson, had a stone, and they put it out in front of the building, but that's not where his
man.
He's right next to the side door.
Wow.
And of course,
interesting.
And of course, all the white Quakers are in the back. And again, this was a wealthy man who financed. This was a wealthy man who financed the building of that meeting house.
Yeah.
The reward was, you can sit in the back.
Yeah.
So, it's things they don't think about. Because when I ask that question, oh, that's not true. First, they'll try to tell me, oh, that's not true. Really?
Yeah.
You really want? I'm like, do you want me to take you to the Westport meeting and I can show you what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And of course, I said, now they don't have a stone marking his grave, but it is fenced off, so you can't get to that section right there.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why.
It's
So so when the Quakers want to talk about stuff like that, I remind them of things like that.
You know what? I like that conversation. I wish I had known that. But every day is Black History, so you just shared some Black history,
Well, I actually give you a little bit of an update. So you have the Sandwich meeting, which is the main Quaker meeting out on Cape Cod.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you remember back during Hurricane Katrina, some of the survivors were airlifted to the Otis Air Base.
Yes.
Well, well, Otis and the kids would be going to the Forest. Some of the kids would be going to the Forestdale Elementary. Somebody promptly decided to burn a cross in front of the Forestdale Elementary School,
Mm.
which the state police ruled a prank.
Yeah.
And this was before they had guidelines for hate crimes. And one of the groups, they're like subgroups of meetings under the meetings. One of the groups wrote a letter about how this is ridiculous. This is obvious. It's obvious what this is.
Mm-hmm.
And the sandwich meeting came out against them and decided to say, no, the police were right. This was just a prank, and they're making a mountain out of a molehill, kind of.
It's interesting because town of Nantucket on Nantucket Island has done some similar things too.
Mm-hmm.
And at the African Meeting House there, and
for a period, there was a group here made up of basically black and brown Quakers who called themselves the Cuffy Meeting.
Mm.
And it was because they were pointing out, we're not comfortable in any of your meetings. We're not comfortable in Westport. We're not comfortable in Sandwich. We're not comfortable in Falmouth. We're not comfortable in Bedford.
Yeah.
We're not comfortable at any of the meetings. So we have our own.
It's
our own safe
amazing.
Space. And of course, what New England did was New England refused to recognize them.
Well, you and I got to talk. That's a podcast in itself, and I think that I'm that. Well, this is what we call it: poetic conversations, right? We talked about this in the first episode, and this is what I like, and we and this is what I listen to every single day when I'm on Spotify or I'm looking for something on YouTube, and these are the type of conversations that I'm looking for. So when I am, driving safely and I'm listening to something, I'm getting educated. I'm listening and learning, as I always say, and which produces me thinking and writing, as with the poetry that I'm writing. So some people think that I'm going through a major crisis sometimes, right? With some of the things that I'm writing, and I'm like, wait. I says, I'm getting this from things that I'm looking at, seeing. I may just be kind of hanging out and just an observation in a doctor's office, or I may be in front of a TV and listen to or watching a movie. There's a very deep poem that I wrote that with that movie Precious, right? So, and someone thought I was going through something. I'm like, hey, wait. I said, look, it's about the movie Precious and what was going on, and that's why I wrote about it. But poetry is I can almost write about anything, and all this conversation that we just had, I already have some things in my head right now that I want to write about, and so, but we you and I definitely got to bring this conversation back, and only because it this is home. This is and these are people that were home, and for us not to share this because I was in the school system, and some of the things that they're learning to me is very excuse the pun, but elementary. Mm-hmm. There's so much broader things that could, but they get so restricted, and but we I'm gonna save that, and I'm gonna reach out to you when that time comes. Mrs. Delano, is it Roosevelt? Mom is right in Fairhaven. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't realize that she's buried in Fairhaven. So when they talk about presidential, it's right there. And there's one other person another famous person that's in the Acushnet, and well, their home was. So I got to talk with someone and get some of that history going, and then broadcast it on the podcast here on WNB1 Radio.
Mm.
Um, all right, let's talk about one of these other kind of brainstorms you had.
Flip that flyer open.
All right,
We can talk.
here we go. Hey, Afro beats, house music, and rare groove. Thumpin' Soul Session, the third Saturday um, each month at Gallery X at 9 p.m., 169 William Street, New Bedford. You can dance, feel the vibes, bring your drums, and play along. Um, age is 16 plus without an adult. Cost you $10, general admission, $5 for a student. This is brought to you by Polygroove Records and Wamptronica.
I'm trying to.
Yeah. So,
The other one we didn't put the name, just the logo, but Oversoul Theater Collective.
all right. Good. Good. This is
Well, give you a run on that one.
Mhm.
Oversoul Theater Collective first came to New Bedford in 1997,
okay.
and we were doing a youth theater program in the basement of the Boys and Girls Club. And some of the people who came out of that program are Eva Brito,
Yes.
Temesticles Ferreira,
Mm-hmm.
Philip Ramos,
Wow.
Rachel Gomes,
Mm.
Chris Stewart, James Stringer. You know,
Yes.
these were
Know all of them.
people who you see, people
Mhm.
who you hear in the arts and community activities now. These were all middle and high school kids doing theater with me back then.
And it's see, I remember all of them when they were at that age.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when they all kind of, a vibe is in, in your inner soul, and they actually started their appearance was changing too,
Mm-hmm.
right around that time, and now that I think of it, so when it was right around the time when they were about 15, it really started blossoming everything from what they talked, what they did, what they preached. So that's interesting. So I'm not going to blame you. I'm going to just give you credit for that because those are some of my most, I love them. Those are my favorite young adults, man. And I could call them young adults, but they probably feel different, but they are younger. My favorite young adults because they're doing so many amazing things even after all that time. So,
Well, the duality of having a theater company and arts organization
mhm,
is it's not just about art; it's about safe space,
yes.
because you need a safe space to create art.
Hmm.
And so it was about creating spaces where people can just sort of test their vibes
Yes.
and find themselves creatively. And so with the Thump and Soul session, the reason why we wanted to do Thump and Soul session, for one, I'm a house head
Hmm.
and missed having someplace.
Nice.
I didn't want to have to keep going to Boston and Providence
Hmm. Yeah.
for house music. But the other piece of it is the fact that it's a community building. The other thing with house music is as we've started, Wamptronica, we've started doing more pop up shows
Hmm.
around places. People can't help dance. They're not even paying attention, and they're like this to the music,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they're swaying to it, and it's sort of like that is that energy of house music. The first time I experienced it wasn't even called house music at that time. First time I experienced it was back probably around, it was around 84, 85, when
Yeah.
I was in high school, and I went and snuck into the Paradise Garage
Hmm.
and heard what Larry Levon was creating, and realized, okay, and just that feel and that vibe
Yeah.
and that pulse, and having 12 speakers with all that bass and vibe
Hmm.
and everything, like this is what
Yeah.
it's supposed to sound like. And so the Thump and Soul session, when house music, it was funny when house music went through this big commercial period
Yeah.
in the 80s, in the late 80s, and then it sort of went underground again. And when it went underground again, it went back to being a community,
Hmm.
and it went back to having, how should I say, less of a gatekeeper feel to it.
Okay.
And it felt like, and especially when I found out about the New Moon Dance Party.
Whoa. Scared the crap out of me. Excuse me. All right. Um, Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was
brother.
just saying when I found out about the New Moon Dance Party and came down, I was like, okay. And heard, they were doing house music, they were doing EDM,
Mm-hmm.
and the piece that for me was missing was in Boston. There was a monthly session called Soul Revival.
Yeah.
In Washington D.C., there was a session called the Sanctuary, and of course, every week in New York was the Shelter. And what I was missing musically was the more Afrocentric feel, because you also had shout out to Ian Friday, who was doing the Tea Party down in Brooklyn,
Okay.
and also you had there was a collective down in Providence who was doing some stuff with house music. But what I was noticing with New Moon was they're much more general in the music, and I mean they play some great stuff,
Yeah.
and they have some amazing DJs because we've actually gone and grabbed up some of their DJs and had them come spin at our thing. But we wanted something that had more of that vibe with let's have drumming, let's have people bring drums, let's make
Mhm.
more of a community feel. And then again, also since we are at Gallery X, it was like, well, that means we're no alcohol. That means okay, let's open it up and give it a family vibe. And of course, in giving it a family vibe, people are now going to have to sign in
Mm-hmm.
because mixed ages, we're not trying to create
Yeah.
problems. We're trying to solve them. but basically having with the Thump and Soul session, having that kind of safe space.
Mm.
The fact that you have high school students, this is the place where the most awkward can come and just feel as themselves.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of this is about, with along with the music, is just that culture.
I found out. I observed that in this area, there you talked about safe space, but there are also family obstacles, right? That a young person is just not given that opportunity to do things like this unless they go into that safe space.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not encouraged at home,
Right.
and it's something that's perceived to be a waste of time until later on, where someone kind of blossoms and ends up doing very well for themselves,
Mm-hmm.
or just making themselves more happier because now they are doing things they want to. So I just wanted to add that when you were talking, that's something that was.
Well, part of it goes back also to the structure when we talk about white supremacy
Mm-hmm.
and the creation of the glass ceiling. It was the removal of intellectually enhancing activities
Yep.
from our. We're just supposed to focus on meat and potatoes, and if we, it's down to if we do something of an intellectual nature, it's supposed to still be more towards a business oriented kind of thing. It's about being a doctor, it's about being a lawyer, it's about being a banker, it's about
Mm-hmm.
being a this, but it's not about, and it's not about being an artist. It's not about being,
Yeah.
any number of
It's that black box,
arts,
right?
any number of arts and liberal
Mhm.
arts based, say, activities. And what becomes funny is the misunderstanding. College is not about getting a job. College is about developing and enhancing critical thinking, and it's about intellectual advancement,
Mm-hmm.
which can lead to
A job, yeah.
being, more employable. But that's not. But it's not a trade school.
No.
And that's the thing that people don't seem to understand. There was a window between the late 40s and I would say probably the very early 80s,
Mm-hmm.
where okay, there was some sort of simpatico between going to college and the job you would get. That was out the window. I can tell you by the time I got out of college, that was out the window.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So true.
Yeah.
It's I just till this day I still love things like the series of Fame and everything that it basically is just bringing to the forefront, and that's only like it's a small percent of what really the real story is, right? And
It's funny you mentioned that because how when Irene Cara died,
mhm,
how many of us who went to that high school were talking about that movie was what made us audition
man,
because we were all those weird kids in
yeah,
middle school.
yeah,
We were the band kids and the orchestra kids and the art geeks,
hmm,
and we suddenly find out about this high school where wait a minute, you mean we can be in a school with other people like
yeah,
us,
yeah,
from all over the city, and that. So it was sort of like seeing that and finding out, no, that place really exists.
hmm. Now, if I'm correct, Tupac went to a similar school in
The
New
one in
Jersey.
Baltimore,
Yeah, Baltimore. That's where it was.
which was actually based on the one in New York,
Wow.
because one that New York influenced one in Baltimore, and then they influenced one in Philadelphia.
Hmm.
And then when the principal of the one in New York retired, he founded the one in D.C., the Duke Ellington.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, the Duke Ellington
Very nice.
School. So
The what are we gonna name your school? When we finally start thinking about naming a school after you, we got a couple of names. So what are we gonna do?
oh, man.
University of the Groovalados.
Bugs Bunny University.
Bugs Bunny. No. Actually, this is my what I believe is that you have no problem getting students, young men and women, to enroll in your classes. Is that a fact?
It goes through waves.
Yeah. Okay.
What again with the sort of thing about critical thinking
Hmm.
and being challenged? Everybody is so remarkably grade oriented
Yeah.
that they're afraid to take creative classes.
Hmm.
Because now it's when you explain to them, okay, if you do everything that I put in the syllabus perfectly,
Yeah.
you'll get a B.
Yeah.
Everything from the B on is up to your creativity, is up to, and they can't
Wow.
relate to that.
Okay.
It's like what they want is a guarantee that if I ran through the maze and made it to the cheese, I should get an A.
Hmm.
It's like, no, if you ran through the maze and made it to the cheese, you get a B.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Now, if you made some use of the trip through the maze,
Hmm.
that's an A.
Yeah.
If you're
Definitely.
able to draw a map of the trip you made and explain it to someone else, that's an A.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We I think we got a good thing here, brother. Poetic Conversations is something that I want us to continue to do, and along with many other things. Uh, Next week we got a couple of events that you and I are gonna.
Oh yeah, actually, we can almost go to this flyer.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. All right. This is welcome to the Thumping Soul movement. Get ready for the good vibes. You got the Zig 808. What's this? The Build Destroy tour. Indie groove, alternative hip hop, and Afro beats coming to the venue near you. May to 2024 through February 2025. Let's see, and it talks. Let's see, Thunderchild tour will be starting June 6th. No, June 9th. Sorry, June 13th at the Arsenal Yard in Watertown. Oh, well, actually, let me get back here. I missed a venue. June 9th will be at the Plymouth Center for the Arts. June 13th will be at the Arsenal Yard in Watertown, Mass. June 14th will be at Arts Alive, Falmouth, Massachusetts. June 17th at the Wellfleet Public Library. June 21st will be at Bebo's, right? That was a cool place, man. Great French fries. I highly recommend them, right? Sports Club in Onset, Mass. July 12th will be at the Blue Moon in Cranston, Rhode Island. Back at Watertown Public Library on July 14th, also July 24th. Onset Bay Concert Series. And go to August 3rd. We'll be live at the Moccasin Tracks in Vermont, right? Zig must have had something to do with that, right? No.
It's gonna come play Cajon for me.
All right.
But that's actually a radio show.
Oh, okay. And August 10th, North Falmouth. What is that?
Porch Fest.
Porch Fest. Okay, man. I almost said something else. August 11th, Uncommon Stage in Boston, Mass. And August 30th will be at the Boston Jazz Festival. I hope I'm back from California. I want to see that. That would be great. So, the adventure in Soul and Blues, brought to you by the funkyprofessor.com. Already in progress will be Wampetronica, Grooves from the First Light, the session tour will be house music, red groove, and breakbeat. What is breakbeat?
Breakbeat is pretty much what it's the basic of the beats that you create behind hip hop.
Okay.
But you now have a whole form where it's like, let's just make the beat and never mind the rapper.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, Pete Rock.
Yeah.
He has a whole lot of albums that's just stuff
Mhm.
he did on his SP 1200.
Wow.
And the same thing with RZA. They have a lot of breakbeat stuff, and it is one of the EDM forms.
Very nice.
But the with Wamtronica, what's going to be fun is a lot of those are just going to be pop up
Yeah.
concerts. It's like
Okay.
we're just going to suddenly pop up in Lope Square in Provincetown
Mhm.
and start playing house music. We're just going to pop up in the Boston Common and start playing house music.
Very
We're
nice.
just going to pop up someplace around here and just start playing house music. And,
That Boston Common, that's going to be nice.
oh yeah,
Ooh, wow! I can't.
'cause,
That
one of the
that is
interesting
going to
things-
be nice.
one of the interesting things with New Bedford, and I'm waiting for somebody to take City Hall to court for violating the Constitution,
Mm.
because what they've done is created a number of ordinances that are actually in direct conflict with freedom of speech.
Mm. Yeah.
And so it's going to be interesting to see,
Yeah. And
how long is that going to play out?
that could happen. But sometimes what happens with town and city governments is they always know they have time, right?
Mm.
And they always think that, all right, we'll settle it when it gets to that time. When you're in front of the person with the black robe, or or being reviewed, or being adjudicated in front of some panel. That's when they want to settle it. So
Because it's never expected to happen.
yeah, exactly. Did you go down to Ashley Park yet?
Ashley Park?
Yep, on the Orchard Tree in Rivet.
Oh, yes, I have.
Now you see the green; it's nice and flat. Oh, I get visions when I rode. But I said, man, could play some music out there. Anything.
And they already have an ordinance against it.
Yeah, exactly. So you spend all that money, and it's probably $1.5 million what they spent over there
Mhm.
to redo it. And they always worry we gotta form some green parks and venues and all that.
Well, this is I mean,
Yep,
but
go
this is
ahead.
how they play the game, because this is what they did in New York. So what
Mm.
you do is you redevelop all these spaces, and then you make them inaccessible to the people who live there,
Mm.
because you want the people who live there to get disgusted and leave, or you try to price them out.
Yeah.
Because what you're doing is you're making this flip for the gentry that you're trying to pull in.
Mhm.
So all of those things that we're now seeing that are really nice in the neighborhoods that we jacked up once upon a time is because they're trying to chase all of us out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what the city of New Bedford is trying. That's what the mayor of the city of New Bedford is really trying
Mhm.
to do.
Yeah. It's a
They're trying to basically flip the city.
Yeah, it drives me crazy. I mean, I tell the story all the time. When I was working on the job, and there was about 90 something no parking signs along a public beach,
Mm-hmm.
and that bothered me. It really did, because all right, so where am I going to park my car to come to this beach, which ended up leading to the parking passes, the
Mhm.
stickers, all that stuff. But years ago we never really had that. But they had those no parking signs, and when you look at it, right, it just bothers me because when they have to clean the beach, they're getting public money. It's not coming from the people that are complaining over there about, I have this beachfront, property, and I just tired of hearing the loud music, the loud, everything, the drug use, and this and that. They Everything that's taboo, they mention it in one complaint. And when you kind of look at it and you start looking at and investigating, it's like, wow, 10 people did that. 10 people did all that complaining about. Because that was the time frame. It was probably right 10 people hanging in that area. You know, because they never realize that you're only a few blocks away, or you were just in that area, or so it bothers me. Well, anyways, so public money cleans up the beaches, maintains them, but it's not coming from that peninsula area.
Mhm.
You guys should be in charge. Maybe the money should come from your, from you, and not everybody else in the city. But so many restrictions. It's crazy. It's driving me crazy.
That's how they play it.
Look at this. This is, we got, this is the gentleman we mentioned, Greg.
Oh, there we go.
Greg, look, when you come up to Mass, this is the man I want you to see.
Looking forward to this.
I want you to, I mean, guess what? It might cost you some money, but you got to bring your equipment with you. Bring something up. I mean, you could probably use, you know, instrument from him or something, but you need to come up here and you need to meet this young fella off to my right, and I want y'all to jam, man. Do a little jam session, record it, man, because I think y'all should just meet up, and that's my sermon today. Is there anything else you want to mention that we haven't?
Let's see. So I have an affinity and a double family history with the Cape Verdean Band Club.
Very
So,
nice.
Trying to come up with ways to do things there. So
Very dear to me.
Oversoul Theater Collective got a grant
Mm-hmm.
through the Mass Cultural Council. And basically what we began to find was, okay, you have venues, but venues can't really afford us.
Yeah.
But we still want to, and especially some place like the band club with a history like that, we want to figure out a way to support it. So it was very cool to be able to go to the people who run the band club and say, how would you like a free DJ or how would you like free DJs for three nights during the summer? So the first one that we're going to do, the Wamptronica, is going to do at June 1st. Saturday night, we're doing house music and Afrobeat on Saturday, June 1st, starting at 9 p.m. down at the CV Band Club. There are going to be a couple of other nights that we do it. We're still locking those dates in. But the first one is going to be June 1st.
Very nice. I like that Massachusetts Cultural Council is finally reaching further south in the city to reach the band club. And
big shout out to the executive director, Michael Bobbitt, because he's done amazing things to turn that agency around.
Yeah.
He smashed a lot of the gates that they used to have.
So beautiful.
And, and the thing is, it's like, okay, because what their attitude used to be was, oh, well, if you don't have the money, it means that you shouldn't get the money, so we're not going to give you the money. And then, but at the same time, they're saying, the creativity in Massachusetts is so sterile. And it said, well, yeah, because you keep funding the same people, and the people who are doing the creative work aren't getting the funding unless they somehow get hired by the ones who you're funding. And that's when the stuff peeks through. And he said, so what if we started actually putting the money in the hands of the communities that are actually doing the creative work?
Yeah.
And actually started getting behind, and he said, what if we actually started getting behind creative work that doesn't necessarily emulate or show the need to emulate white people, but to sort of like celebrate the arts and culture within your own context.
Yeah.
So, and it took all of this time for somebody like Michael Bobbitt to come in and say, let's do that.
Mhm.
So this is why you start to see more things like this happening with the Mass Cultural
Yeah.
Council's name on it. So so this is supported.
That's very nice.
That's on June 1st, and the other one that we have here, this is a fun one. This doesn't start till September,
Okay.
but starting in September, we're going to be doing at the Cape Verdean Band Club Second Thursday Blues.
Hmm.
That's going to be basically I'll be leading a jam session
That's
on a Hanite
very nice.
blues, blues, jazz, and soul. And the thing is, come down and listen, or if you're a musician, come down and play. Let's just jam,
I like that because not only the band club, but that kind of brings back what the bomb shelter used to do just a few blocks up the street. So that's going to be real nice. And but you can count me in anything that you do, but I definitely want to see that because they need it. They really do. And
But this is also to just kind of show to your viewers
yeah.
and to show to the people who want to call themselves gatekeepers.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it was easy to pick the lock. You want to call yourself a gatekeeper? It was easy to pick the lock.
Yeah. It's I love this.
Okay, and I got and the folks who've been doing the work again in the city: New Moon Dance Party, Third Eye,
Hmm. Something today, right?
WNB1. Yeah, I mean
Yep.
everybody who's been doing something, who've been doing things in the city. Like I said, a lot of what I'm coming in and doing is built on being able to collaborate with you guys. So,
Yeah.
I'm very, very, man, I hate allergy season, but
I know the feeling.
But no, it's been very good to be able to come in and work with everybody.
Yeah.
And make these things happen, bring these things to fruition. And the fact, it becomes the fact of the matter that all of us are the people who were kind of ignored by the gatekeepers.
Mm.
And that's how I
Yep.
realized that lock's easy to pick.
Yeah, definitely. Yep. It's I still I remember when you guys were in the window, right?
Yeah.
As I call it, that storefront.
Yep.
That was just the thinking, the brainstorming behind that was amazing. That's I love that.
It goes back to when the Rubelados came out with our first album, 2017. We were having trouble getting bookings on the Cape. So I studied free speech laws, which then meant that, okay, we can play out in the streets. And I found which towns can you play out on the streets, which town do you need to get a permit, which town is this. And so created a tour of playing street corners.
Wow.
Using a generator. And that was how we sold CDs. That was how that was, the Funk Hits tour.
Yeah.
And so understanding that was sort of like, okay, so the city wants to play gatekeeper and they want to have their concert. So, okay, what do we need to do to set up and play out in the street? Oh, okay, well, these are the rules. Oh, you can only go this far in front of a store. Perfect. So if we set the band up in the window and we put the speakers in the doorway and we put the drummer in the doorway and we don't let people come in or out, so we're not actually blocking a doorway. And there's still an exit for everybody inside to get out, which is the side fire exit or the back exit. We're completely compliant.
Golden.
So we were able to stand right across the street from City Hall, who does not hire Negroes. No, they hire funky white honkies, but they don't hire Negro musicians.
Yeah.
Because
it just
white people play funk better than we do. So that's why they hire them. Because
it just I mean the word funk. Anybody is you could be on the mountains of Denver, Colorado rather, and still you say that word, it's going to relate to something, and it's going to relate to Black people, and I just don't understand where sometimes they like to do is because you have one Black member in a group, and then all right, that's a minority group, but this, but well, it's another podcast, I guess, right?
Oh, I mean, it becomes an interesting
Mm-hmm.
and fun sort of thing. When I found out the primary curator of black music in the city is an old white woman, I realized, wow, this is a really twisted place.
Yeah, it happens all the time, and it's been going on. But like I said, we could talk about stuff like that, and at least
soak your teeth to soul music. No,
yeah.
but again, it's this kind of thing of New Bedford was a city where you could fall into almost any bar and hear music. And I mean, this was in my lifetime. And now what they've tried to do again, it's sort of like the gatekeeper game has been, okay, we're going to make it this package. And the thing is, no, it's not supposed to be like that. Not supposed to be like that at all.
Yeah, too many. A lot of people have cemented bases around here that and
enough water and cement cracks.
Yeah, it's definitely that's what we got to do, man.
That's the people who built those houses in California. Enough water, that's cement cracks.
Yeah, it cracked all right.
How deep is the ocean? Like all those, I remember this was a funny one. All those people who built those waterfront houses on the Atlantic coast on Cape Cod, who then are like, oh, the erosion. And it's like, no, you idiot. Erosion is part of what's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
I'm like, do you realize that famous walk that Henry David Thoreau made from Provincetown to Orleans is now about 3 miles out to sea?
Wow. It's amazing. I look at a lot of older geographical maps and stuff like that, and it's amazing how much that we I mean, you could just in my lifetime you see how a lot of those areas, beaches seem to be smaller than when you was a kid, and well,
and it's not because you're bigger, but you're bigger, and it's the double, the double effect.
Yeah,
you're bigger, and that beach is a whole lot smaller. That sandcastle that you built is now about a mile out.
Yeah. All right, Waleem, you are one of my favorite people, man, and I totally love this. Got a comment. It says, "Great guest. We need more people like him. God bless him. Good job. Thank you." It's from Michael Connor. Appreciate the comment. Appreciate the viewing. And you know what? You can hear us the first Tuesday every month. My guest, my host rather, is here with me, and this is something we talk about, and we're gonna bring poetic conversations to you. So feel free to jump on the WNB1. Excuse me, I got to change that up. It's WNB1.com, and the live streams will be, being brought to you from the podcast to Mags in the Morning with J9. All this is going to be brought to you through the streams, and everything that we have tied into WNB1.
One thing I forgot.
Yep.
Next Thursday night, May 16th, at the Underground Railroad Cafe. And if folks don't know where that is, that's 213 Acushnet Ave. It's right across the street from Bay Village and May Park. And it's we're having an album listening party for my release, Thunderchild. Listen.
Yeah.
So we have a CD. It's an actual physical CD. When you're over 50, like I am, you still listen to CDs.
Yes, we do.
Nonetheless,
yes, we do.
But Thunderchild, we're having the pre-listening party. The album itself comes out in June. But just an opportunity for the community to experience. Listening parties usually reserved for the music industry, the media. And I thought it was more important for it to be something that the community got to participate in. That when an album is finished, this is part of the process, is sit and listen to it, everybody, and listen to and engage with it. And so the 16th at the Underground, that is going to be a good time. We are having one the night before at Cultivator Show, which should also be fun. But the one that's going to be the real fun one, I already can tell you, is going to be the one at the Underground Railroad.
Yeah.
Because that's community and that's family. And,
Yeah, definitely. It that building's got a lot of history in it for me, and can't wait to be there. Can't wait to share the moments with you. And it's gonna be nice. So I promise to do my hair, brush my teeth, and represent you pretty well. You know. All right.
You always do, brother. You always
Thank you. Well, everyone, thank you for joining us here on WNB1 Radio. This is Poetic Conversations, and like I said, we are here first Tuesday of every month. Please join me on the Really Charlie podcast. That's every Tuesday, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. I'm going to get back to a lot of things that I was doing. One is the podcast, and the other is playing some R&B music for probably that last 2 hours of my time on the radio here on WNB1 Radio. So if you have any wishes, you have any desires, you have that one playlist that you want to be heard on WNB1, get those songs to me and I would definitely play it. Yeah. Yes.
I'm sorry.
Exactly.
I'm sorry.
No, that's
fever season.
that's not a shameless plug, man. I get it. We are ready for everything that you have to offer and the audience has to offer. Also, please, we are here for you.
And look forward to seeing everybody next month.
Yeah, can't wait.
First Tuesday of every month is when we do our Poetic Conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you all for joining us on this conversation. I'm Waleem, the Funky Professor, and I want to remind you, it doesn't have to be legal to be moral.
Nice. Nice. All right, y'all. I am going to end this show. And don't forget, add WNB1 Radio to your devices. And Android or Apple. And listen to the music 24 hours, 7 days out of the week.
And welcome to the Thumb and Soul Movement.
Yes, definitely. I got to get a T-shirt, man. I definitely got to get a T-shirt.
I got to grab one. I have one for you.
All right, y'all. Thank you very much. And I'll see you next week.